So I guess we can start with the next phase. The interesting thing of having 200 people is that when you split up in small groups, it's still a big group. So we'll try to find ways in the afternoon to get even more interacted than we did so far. And we can make a little bit of a start here. The idea would be to just go through the results, and you see so many cards. And luckily, it's too small to read, so we cannot go into all details. So the people that will present the, let's say, main items of the discussion, I would like to invite them and stay in the headlines and not getting too detailed. We have a surprise for them as well, because there's a timer here on the place, and they have 8 minutes per person, and it just counts down. You won't see it, but they can see it. And after 8 minutes, there will be a couple of minutes to just have a couple of questions from the audience to see whether we can add things or get some clarification on a specific subject. That would be the idea. So I'd like to invite the first group who have been working here, and do your storytelling, please.
Okay, hello everyone. We're going to be quite linear and work our way through. My role will be to talk briefly about the benefits. Okay, my name's Florian Leonard from the Intelligent City Forum in the London School of Economics.
I'm Georges-Etienne Faure from the City of Paris.
And Megan Cook from the Center for Technology and Government.
Thank you. So we're going to start briefly talking through the benefits as we work through them in the group. I think that someone in our group said one of the reasons we're here is because clearly there are a lot of other initiatives, networks, and associations that are looking at this, but we all feel that there's something lacking. So some form of shared understanding, shared framework that allows for common language and for dialogue is something that we're all looking for, something that can actually create a code, some kind of a DNA that we can all understand and over which we can share different solutions and develop solutions that are applicable in the range of cities, that are transferable, and that also allow us to have both a global and a local view on how we want to build smarter and more sustainable cities. That is also in terms of generating more efficiency in the type of decision making for planning, for infrastructure that we feel that such a protocol can enable, as well as creating a cross-cultural frame of reference that allows us to, even while we think global, allow to transfer these solutions into different cultural environments. And I think we all feel that there's a great benefit that could be had if we have that type of shared understanding and shared language. I'll hand over to the city.
Now for impediments, the group felt there are different categories of impediments. One of the first ones, well, one of the most classical ones would be that the city protocol would be could be a project that would be too conceptual, not enough applicable, not enough directly oriented towards concrete solutions to concrete problems. Something related to that would be that the CP could be too wide. It's a huge topic, it's incredibly complex. How do we work something out that's applicable and that really does something efficient? Lack of uniqueness, how does the city protocol relate to other initiatives and to existing protocols or description, existing practices in urban planning? And of course, there's always the matter of governance. How do we build a governance for the city protocol so that we can actually get to something? How do we get the correct authority or the development methodology so that we can work all together to define some things? One interesting idea of the group was that there's a tension between two different rhythms. Sometimes cities are really working in the long term or should be working on the long term, but companies and sometimes political officials have just a short-term view. So we need to, work together for both short-term and long-term so that we can achieve all this. Of course, there are cultural and political differences between various cities on various continents, be them in legal procedures and in procurement procedures, but also in the difference in financial situations, the really cultural differences, and possibly the lack of flexibility of cities. Especially for the private sector, but also a little bit for the public sector and the cities, we know that now there is a worldwide competition, be it for companies or for cities. So how do we handle cooperation within this competition? And what else did we have? Yeah, we had the idea that the process can't be entirely top-down. It needs to have some bottom-up component so that we can get to a social engagement and we can actually empower citizens.
Great. So I've been asked to sort of summarize what the discussion that occurred after we did this work. So one of the things we noticed was that our ideals were very ideal, lofty, and the impediments were very more detailed or granular. And so one of the discussion areas that we were talking about is what is good enough for this organization? Are there smaller successes that we could have without having an organization that meets all of the ideals? Is there something in the middle that we can achieve where everyone can walk away and say this is a valuable organization? So that was one of the discussions. Some of the other things that emerged after we looked at our board was that are emerging countries ready for city protocol? Are we incorporating their needs into the framework, the standards, the things that we are thinking about? We don't have chief innovation officers in cities. Is a lot of this our thinking more tilted on the innovation side and less on the day-to-day operations side? That was a dichotomy and a tension we discussed. So our overall thought was that everyone is here. We could name stakeholders who are not in the room, but we have a lot of them here. And I think the overall consensus was that we think this is a good thing to pursue. It's just mitigating the differences between these two. Thank you.
Great. Stay here, stay here. There might be questions. Can you put on mic as well? Yep. There might be some questions for you because they give you the applause, but yeah, you did a really great job. Any questions from the audience? Terrific story. Good start of the first report out. Thank you very much. Great. Thank you. So I'd like to invite Group 2, who are just working here. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. So we have representation from the west of the Pacific. We got Seoul and San Francisco, and we had a lot of people talk about very similar things that Group 1 talked about. One of the things that we wanted to mention up front was I'm sorry, I'm Tim Papandreou from the city of San Francisco, and there's...
Yeah, I'm Chong Lee from the city of Seoul. I'm actually at the Yonsei University and also managing UCT Service Platform Project.
Thank you for mentioning that. One thing we went up front with and said that why are we doing this? Well, we know that we're having many, many more people moving into cities, so there's an imperative to manage our cities in a better way. Some of the benefits of the city protocol were similar to Group 1. We talked about the idea of having better standards that many cities from all different parts of the globe could actually work towards and benefit from. Having a common framework, even though our cities are so diverse and we have such differences among cities, having a common shared framework would actually help us all, depending on where we are in our stages, to actually figure out our priorities and some key pieces. The other area that we thought of benefit would be it would create a better opportunity for more collaboration and deeper collaboration among all different sectors, not just the private business or the NGO sectors, but a better collaboration. It'll allow us to identify better opportunities for best practices and good practices so that we can actually learn from each other, but not just knowledge sharing, but actually transplanting and for importing ideas in a more cost-effective way, and the idea of sharing technology, better platforms for sharing technology and different opportunities there. We looked at there's an opportunity there with more transparency. We can actually see better agreement among citizens about their needs and understanding those needs in a more transparent way. And we talked about opportunities where technology can actually help a lot of that piece there. Influencing stakeholders as well. We can actually use this as a way to educate and influence stakeholders, whether it's community citizens all the way to political leadership, on how we can actually benefit from these pieces. And the outcome of all of this would be obviously better efficiency, more scalability for all different types of cities, and optimization. And I think those are the more of the benefits side. So why don't you talk about the impediments?
Oh, the whole impediment thing?
Oh, I can run through it too. Okay. Oh, so see, it's dynamic. We're spinning around.
Okay.
Okay. On the impediment side, we had a lot of impediments, as you thought. A lot of the issues were going from theory to practice. This, like many other forums, we do a lot of talking, and we like to do a lot more walking and walk the practice. It's a challenge to be focusing on a lot of these lofty ideas, but without specific deliverables. So being very clear on what are the outcomes that we're going to be focusing on, and actually showing the benefits. Why should we do this? Not just to us as the group, but the politicians who decide on, and the community who will benefit from these processes with business. There's a challenge that we may focus too much on technology, and I know there's a lot of people here from the ICT world, and yes, it's important, but it's not the only thing, and we need to look at other things in addition to just technology. The most important thing is the engaging of the citizens. Without citizen engagement, we're not going to be successful. This will be just another idea that came and went, and we've been to too many of those conferences and don't want to do that anymore. There's standardization fatigue. We've had a lot of standards that have come and gone, and they didn't actually go anywhere. So making sure that this actually has sustainability to be sustained over the long run is very important. One of the biggest impediments on this board is the lack of leadership in all levels, in all sectors. There's just this common lack of leadership and ownership. The political consensus and support. We all come from very different political systems. Many of our cities are not actually as democratic and open as other cities, and so how this is all going to work is going to be very, very interesting. There's a general lack of industry collaboration. There's competition among industry to outdo each other and provide the services for cities, and there's not really an understanding of how to actually share in this process. There's plenty of work. There's plenty of work for all this. There is a complexity of maybe there's too many stakeholders. Maybe this is a little too broad in what we're trying to do, and maybe we need to focus on what we want to actually achieve up front, and bring in people as we learn more and more and understand more of what we're doing. And then the diversity of the cities and their needs. There's a lot of different needs among cities, and we're in different stages. So a lot of people mentioned that was a potential challenge. One of the things that I thought was really interesting, and have you elaborate on, is how similar we're seeing the thread of these issues. And I think that's actually a really good thing to start off with.
Yeah, just like what she was saying, I was being asked to kind of summarize what we have discussed. One thing that we have found after the whole the discussion thing, what is the first one? The benefit, we can look at it like a causal map, starting from setting the standards and the framework, leading to its actual benefits. But when it comes to the impediments, it's like stack of things that needs to be, overcome. Maybe not at once, but there are a lot of things that needs to be worked on at the individual level, and we need to work on it at the same time. But also, at the end, we have come up with a very important point, which we cannot classify it as any of the components over here. One is that, like,
information technology itself, which is based on what we are actually discussing, is not considered as a social infrastructure that people need to invest in terms of tax money like the road or the stuff. But also at the same time, the interesting point coming out that we cannot go as a breadth first process, which has its risk. Also depth first has its process, and we could not reach any resolutions on the discussion on these points. And we have only 50 seconds to, if you want to
I think the last point is important, though, that we talked about what was mentioned before, that a lot of the innovations are coming from the ground up. And if we are too top down, we're going to miss the opportunity, because all of this innovation worldwide now is coming from the citizens and from the very, very small companies that are starting to think of these things, because that's where the information is coming from.
Yeah, and most importantly, where's the money?
Yeah,
Came
where's
out
the money?
At the last minute.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions to this group? And they're leaving almost, so you have to be quick. No questions? Everything's clear? Clear message. Thank you very much. I'll take the mics. Thank you. Now, in the meantime, you notice that every group has done the same questions. So there's a huge amount of values, a huge amount of impediments that we could use in the rest of the workshop and afterwards. So it would be nice to hear from this group what's new on top of what we already heard.
So,
I'm waiting for the time. Okay.
We could start.
I'm Gloria Piaggio. I come from the city of Genoa in Italy, and I coordinate the Geneva Smart City project.
And I'm Michael Maltquin, working with Lightspeed Derby in the United Kingdom.
So asking us to point out the differences from the groups before is a bit difficult, because we were concentrated on what we were going to say. So I'm going to quickly go over what we did. The benefits of the protocol, which are rather common to other groups, but in certain things different. One of the main things is that the collective action, as you see the number of indicators that we have here, the fact that the city protocol means working together, and also connected to this, that it becomes a standardization. I know that it was said that standards can be dangerous because they are not applied, but it is still, however, felt that it is a need to have a common set of standards. So the collective action will lead to this, and to the knowledge sharing of the things we already have. This, of course, requires multi-actors. So this is one of the essential points of the city protocol, the fact that it is, in a sense, a global process that puts together the different actors towards a common goal. We also think that it is important that the city protocol is service-oriented, that it takes into account what the needs are, so that it looks at the things, and that it builds business cases, because it has to be translated from a vision to concrete things.
And just to add, I think one of the things, we didn't have enough time afterwards to discuss it, but I think one of the interesting things there is that we spent most time on looking at what the protocol will enable. It enables the development of standards, it enables the different actors to come together to work, it enables sharing of information. So all of those are great things in themselves, but they're not really the benefits as such. And I think the kind of benefits that we can get, for instance, the benefit of standards, having a standardized approach, is that it enables new business and new markets to develop. I mean, that's the key thing about it, that once you've got a large number of cities working together to develop a common approach and common standards, it means that, that both the large companies get a clear market that they can address and start to develop products cheaper and better, but it also allows the innovation from the small players as well, because they know that if cities all over the world are approaching it in a common way, it becomes cost-effective to develop apps. And the citizens, again, if it becomes well understood, will have the opportunity to add their contribution and to be really involved in making this whole thing work.
Okay, shall we turn to the impediments?
Help you?
Could you? as a man, I can't possibly turn and think about what to say, I'm afraid. I can only do one thing at a time.
Shall we give you some time?
But,
Turn it back
in fact, it's a women's job, multitasking. But however, in the impediments or cons side, we think that one of the risks is the lack of vision. So it is, in a sense, paradoxical because it is almost contradictory with the other impediment, which is scope, general, specific. So what emerges from under is that there is a need to address things both from a visionary side, so to define a strategy, a common strategy, and at the same time be concrete. And both are felt as a risk and at the same time as an advantage. So it is certainly an issue that CP must address. Then again, the financial model and who is paying, as some other group, the second group said before too. And it was one of the positive aspects, the needs for the CP was to create a business case. So the financial model was one of the risks of it not working. The governance, again, this has emerged both of the city in the sense that the resistance to change was felt to be a very high risk at all levels because of organization, of politicians, of people, of the way the city works. But at the same time, the governance within the city protocol was another of the risks that need to be addressed. Again, as last thing, the risk of not listening to people. So the risk of creating something top-down, as was said before, and not listening to citizens.
And just to, in a way, summarize that the key task, I think, that we need to be able to do is to get exactly right the scope of what the city protocol should include. Because there's certain things that cities have in common, and those are the things that we need to address. And then there are certain things that where cities are different and special. And what we need to do is to make sure that we deal with this at the right kind of level to enable the commonalities to build the market and to enable cost savings and efficiencies, but to allow it very easy for cities to be able to customize that to their own specific needs. We also need to take into account, as has been said already, the fact that there are cities that some are very wealthy and many resources, some in other countries which have much greater need of finance. And what we need to do is to work out, again, in order to allow the greatest number of cities to participate, we need to take into account the varying resources and the varying political situations of the different countries and so on. So there's a really important work to be done in drawing a circle, thinking of all the things that could be part of it and working out which are out of scope and which are in scope that we can concentrate on and come up with something that's really practical and important. And I guess just one final thing to say, the issue that, of course, the city protocol will be developed by a few key players working together, if you like, and the citizen doesn't have a particular voice. And also, we didn't talk about it, but the small business sector. I can't imagine there's a clear and easy way for small businesses to have a voice in this. So we need to think very carefully about how the work done in developing this protocol can ensure that the citizen has a genuine input into that, and also the many, many small businesses that potentially could add huge value to this can also make sure that they've got a place in the way this is developed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get the mic? Now, I guess that the last thing that you said about the small businesses very well connects to what the first group said on the bottom-up process, that we should not forget that it's a bottom-up process as well. Yeah, great. Thank you very much. Any questions? No questions? What happens? Yes, please.
More than a question, I have
a comment. Build.
I fully support what you said about the small and medium businesses. And one of the key things that strikes me is that every city is putting online all its data. And usually there is no standard on that. So how a small business can develop a service in a city and then deploy it in another city, in the same countries or elsewhere, I don't know. If there is no standard, it doesn't work. So it's small businesses are the innovative ones, and then how can we help them? I think this can help a lot, yes.
Yeah, it did emerge in the contradictory aspect of standardization and customization, but they really connect together. I think that it emerged in the group. We did not in detail discuss it afterwards, but the points that were made by the people really led to the both channels connecting.
And I guess in terms of the scoping, that's the key thing here, because what we don't want is scoping out what's done in order to benefit large city administrations and the major corporates. We want to make sure that we keep in mind things that will actually give the opportunity to the small businesses as well to bring that innovation in place. And we need to be very clear that that has to be something that we concentrate on, because that's what's going to lead to the long-term benefits.
Thank you. Is there anyone having a specific example of where small business was successful in one city and did the same thing in another city? Is there any success? Yeah? Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Hi. Yes, we work with 1,000 primarily small businesses. So we've built a whole portfolio of these case studies, and it's our purpose to scale innovations that smaller business create.
So who is we?
Yeah, so we as Living Labs Global, it's a non-profit association working with 50 cities and 1,000 particularly smaller and medium-sized businesses. Now, as some of the examples, we have a lot of failures. That's why we focus on this. We know that small businesses have too high acquisition costs of about 50% of their revenue to scale from one city to another. At the same time, we've brought about some successes. In San Francisco right now, we have a small company from Switzerland called Paradox Engineering that will implement the backbone, the wireless control system for the lighting system. And we've created about 45 such examples. So I'm happy to kind of come back to this point.
And what did you do to create that success? What is your added value in that?
Yeah, so our model is that we work with cities before they start procurement processes to articulate and present their problems and their needs. And at that point, we show them a global discovery process, a global catalog of all available solutions from small and large vendors to first of all look at methodologies of approaches, how they can solve the problem. And at that point, we then take them through a guided evaluation and decision-making process to find the most promising solutions. And then the companies that win that process, they actually, on their own cost, do a pilot implementation in the city to show how it really works before the city makes a funding commitment.
Great, thank you. It's a marketplace, basically. Thank you very much. Yes. Good examples. Is there any other questions to this third group? They're on the edge, so you really have to be quick. No? Not yet? Okay, let's skip. Thank you very much. And let's go to the fourth group. Can you take them away? I'll get the other one.
Okay. We begin by a short presentation. I'm José Carlos Rivera, working in Schneider in the transportation sector from Telvet.
Sorry. My name is Sunil Dubey. I'm from the University of Sydney, and I'm also Metropolis Country Director for India.
Okay, first for the beginning, I'm there for the good news. So, working first on the benefits and values of the city protocol. We began to get this part out of the scope even because we are talking about a shared vision. The vision is very important and it comes from 2 points of view. One of them is standards that assure interoperability, and on the other side, the knowledge sharing that is also an important benefit that can be procured by collaborative work between different groups. One of the main issues is optimization, making more in less time with less cost, based on the standardization that we may be providing on the basis of a common language. But also, we have the importance of cities and citizen empowerment that needs to be maintained in this structure in order not to build something that is out of the scope of the cities, but is already devoted to the specific needs and may be adapted to each city. Another part of our discussion was about KPIs, a way to compare what we are doing, not to benchmark, but already to use these indicators in order to know the way to work, in order to foster leverage or get some kind of actions that provide some kind of effects on the side. Okay, other things that are basically that were basically given on different steps were the tools to integrate the common assets in order to get common tools for work, and getting profit of good ideas, even thinking in a different way.
Thank you. So we'll just flip, and it's as simple. We'll just flip these boards and we talk about what the impediments. And the way we address the impediments are not just looking at the stumbling blocks. We looked at more of challenges and what we're going to do with these challenges. And in doing so, our group focused on both strategies, top-down, and that's where we started looking at the political and governance, but more importantly, what leadership could do. And leadership, in this regard, is not limited to the city leadership. We had many instances, many examples where we have seen what city leadership can do. But more importantly, how do we bring the leadership to this platform? How do we bring the leadership so this particular message we spread out to the cities are our first stakeholders? And this is a big challenge for us, the leadership. Moving from there, then we go on to the bottom-up approach. As we heard from the last three groups, there's enormous amount of work happening at the ground level, which we all have to appreciate, which we all have to learn, but more importantly, we have to be very fast to start implementing those ground realities and bringing up what's happening in terms of the local context. And to quote a very important quote, think global, act local. And unless we are prepared to go on the ground level, this global connectivity is going to become just a dream unless we are happy to address things at the local level. Challenge number 2. Moving back again, these challenges are not going to just happen and we'll resolve it by 1, 2, or 3 platforms. It is going to bring some complexities. Complexities in terms of what do we really do with these informations and the networks. Are every political leader is prepared to open up these information platforms to the citizens or not? And this raises a very fundamental question. These complexities of the cities are going to be important, very important in terms of playing the role, as we've heard in the morning sessions. Cities, by and large, are becoming the largest revenue earners for the countries or the regions. I come from Sydney. Sydney contributes probably one of the largest GDPs in Australia. In our state, we contribute over 60% of the GDP for the state. Are they going to be small issues? No, but we have addressed the complexities of these issues. Then we looked at the most important factor. Who is it all for? This is all good for us as a very expert group of people who has got a key role in delivering these things. But let's not forget our fundamental, what it's all about. And this is about the citizens. This is about the people who needs to be participants, who needs to be stakeholders, but more importantly, they need to feel pride of this. So in city protocol, we need to include, we need to infuse these citizens in this program. How do we do it? We don't have specific answers, but we do have those challenges in front of us. In moving this part here, with I think all the 3 groups before us very clearly raised, show me the money, the financial models. But in talking about the financial models, what we looked at it is in fact not necessarily the cash contribution to the cities. The cities thrive more when they have a larger affinity to adopt the capacity building. if the city has got more pro-engagements with the different stakeholders from the private, from the public, from the government, non-government, they by and large show this model works effectively. So let's not confuse ourselves when we talk about the finances. It's limited to just the cash contributions. There are numerous examples from this word where a group or a government agency had a pot of money to spend on programs, and they could not spend even half of that money. So let's face it, it's not because of the lack of the money. And I'm quoting these examples coming from India, where the capacity is the biggest challenge, not necessarily the cash. So we addressed that how City Protocol is going to readdress this issue of finance. And more importantly, what's the immediate challenge for us? The immediate challenge for this group of people, there are so many programs happening. As we heard from Nicolas Ville this morning, every day every week, he gets probably tens and hundreds of these smart city programs coming. Which one are you going to choose from? Which one is going to be the most appropriate for your city? And in doing so, we do need to come up with a point of differentiation. And if we have this point of differentiation for the city protocol, I think the cities are going to be far more engaging and cooperating and accepting to these programs. And these are the challenges, and I'm quite sure I'll end this with a Chinese proverb: every long journey starts with a single step. And this is the first step. Thank you. Oh, questions?
And you notice while he was telling this, he was acting like the king, and he made the first step. Did you see that? So he's well on the way. Okay. Thank you very much. Is there any question from the audience? Yes, please.
Yep. So you mentioned that we need to have something that's well known enough that we all know what we mean by when we say the city protocol, but we also need to customize it in local regions. And then you said something very interesting. You said we want KPIs, key performance indicators, but we don't want to do benchmarking. We don't want to compare one city against the other with KPIs. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sorry. One of the main discussions that we had was the point of view of global versus local. So each city really has its own problems, its own ways to face the problem. We need a technology or a framework that can address all of them, but maybe the comparison between the results in one of those cities are not really valid. So in the way that we made something, I think that we had one issue of that. Oh, I remember one card that says that the indicators that we can use are maybe not similar between different cities because of this differentiation and localism or local differences that we find.
I think I'd just like to add, in our discussion, we also came up with how do we make, because benchmarking is a good tool. It could be very competitive, and people, it depends how do you actually use this information of benchmarking. What our role here in City Protocol is probably more focused, how do we make this whole competitiveness and make it more complementary? And that's the challenge. There's no specific answers. From time to time, this competition can become very nasty. Cities can start competing, and then the same benchmarking and the same tools we have developed can actually backfire on us as well. So our role here is how do we look at when these benchmarkings can be used as a complementary tools, and let the cities decide. Let the cities make their call, how do they want to use it for their own benefit. But we go to a certain level, and maybe we readdress the issues. Are we really going to perform it or leave it there, or we don't have specific answers?
Yeah, I must say that, in fact, I should not intervene because we don't want this to be Barcelona-centered, and you identify myself with Barcelona, but the proposal we're going to make tomorrow is that if we agree to build in the future, because it will not come out from here, but if we, the community, agree to build a global organization, this global organization should have local chapters. And we have the umbrella of a global organization, and the local chapters should address this particular area. So everything can be in the packet. I mean, we can have a global vision and then a local action. So this global and local dialectic should be covered. In fact, this is the way how the internet works. The Internet Society is a global organization with local chapters. And there is only one internet, but then there are many local issues. So I think we can cover both.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Try to get my mic back. Thank you. Any other questions? Questions to group number 4. The point of differentiation. Do you have a specific thing in mind there?
No, we don't want to start what point of differentiation at this stage. I think it's too early for us to define anything. But there has to be a point of differentiation, only because there's so many. Yeah. And in order for us to step out, we need to demonstrate, give that confidence to the cities.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's no other questions, I guess? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
First of all. Now, what we have done already is look a little bit on what's required, not only the why. Yes, the why is there, it's all green, it looks nice. It seems like the why is quite clear to all of us, and there's a lot of value in the city protocol. The question is, how do we proceed, and what's in there? What do we need? And there's some impediments, a lot of impediments that have been noticed already. We need to put certain things in place. How far do we go? What needs to be in there? What needs not to be in there? What's local? What's global? We have to find out, and we'll discuss on that specific item in the afternoon. So it will be focusing on the second stage, close to the cities, close to the needs of the citizens, close to the needs of all the users of the cities, and see what the protocol should have to meet that need. That's the idea for the afternoon. Before that, and while you were all looking here, I see all food going from left to right. There's a lunch being prepared on the outside terrace because the weather is fine now, nice, now we can do that. The idea is to have lunch, to just continue the talks, and at 3 o'clock we'll invite you with some music to get back to this place. Thank you very much.